Sony ending physical games is the thorn in Sony's side that is not going to stop until they decide to reverse their decision. And even if they do decide to reverse the decision, we all know what the end goal and ultimate ploy for Sony is going to be: destroy physical media, make everything licenses, and control the game flow only through their store so they can simply make all of the money and cut out everybody else. That's the end goal here, but the ending of physical media for Sony sends a clear message to Nintendo, to the Switch 2, and to the industry. But we're going to talk about the impact that it could have on the Nintendo, the ramifications, everything that's happening here, because it goes a lot deeper than I've seen other people talk about. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers, or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. So let's discuss just the basic summary of what's happening if you lived under a rock for like the last week or something like that. So here's the deal, guys. Sony put out a message on their Twitter account essentially saying they are done with physical game discs for the PlayStation 5 and systems going forward. So the PlayStation 6 in January of 2028. They're also closing down the PS Vita and the PlayStation 3 store. So if you want to get anything on there, you got about this year or so or to next year to get that. Check it out. I'll have a link to it, or you guys can check it out on the PlayStation blog. But the big news here is that physical discs are ending by January 2028. So Sony is wanting to move on, and there's been all sorts of news on them repurposing a production plant for Blu-ray discs to like micro lenses and just doing other things. It's been all bad. We got an extra bit of news on the PlayStation 5 disc drive. So the disc drive for PlayStation 5 digital edition consoles, they put out an important notice whenever you go to buy one. It says from January 2028, newly released games on PlayStation will be available for purchase on PlayStation Store and at retailers in digital format only. This 4 games released before January 2028 can continue to be played on this console. So it seems as if they've doubled down and added that disclaimer post the announcement, because people rushed to go buy the disc drive from Sony once we heard the news, and I don't think that disclaimer was there or people would have talked about it. So it seems like this was something that was added a bit afterwards. So it looks like they're going to stick with this, and they're going to bank on people just forgetting about it or just saying skip the physical people. We don't need them. We can lose out on that 15 to 30% of the people that do buy physical when you're basing it off of actual games that are physical and not using Roblox and Fortnite and only digital games for the most part. To do the comparison, they want to cut all of those people out, or essentially just convert them to saying, oh, well, you love the content so much, you're going to buy digital because you love us. We're PlayStation. We can do this. We have all the third-party support. We have everyone in our corner. So we're going to get this done. So I think that's what their goal is for this. But here's the thing, guys. It's not going over smoothly at all. I want to go over one thing or multiple different things here, and it's how the clear message being sent to Nintendo that they've completely conceded Japan. That's a huge thing. Japan and physical media is huge, and even if you look at the post on the Japanese PlayStation account on Twitter, doesn't have the 138 million plus views that the US post has, but it has 11 million plus views, and a lot of the Japanese users are not happy about this and essentially just saying, yeah, we knew you guys were going to do this after they shut down Sony Japan studios and they moved out of Japan and kind of did everything in California and stuff. They kind of all just, it was like a slow, painful death of Sony caring about the Japanese consumers out there. Another thing that I want to note when it comes to giving up and completely conceding, waving the white flag in Japan, Genki, who does cover Japanese gaming. He lives there. He speaks English. He speaks Japanese. He's someone who translates a ton of Japanese stuff for our consumption on Twitter. So shout outs to Genki. He does a great job. And he put up this picture and he put up this tweet saying, this is the reason why Nintendo won't be getting rid of physical media anytime soon. Physical media is still very important in Japan, and Japan is still very important to Nintendo. And he shows all these pictures of just all the different stuff in Japan that's just full of Japanese Nintendo Switch 1, and of course now Nintendo Switch 2 games, systems, just advertisements, everything. It's just something that's a part of Nintendo. Nintendo started out making physical products, playing cards, Hanafuna playing cards back in the day, started out making toys, Ultra Hand, different type of stuff that they've done all throughout the years. Making physical products is their thing. Making weird little doodads and different gadgets are their thing. That's what they're about. They're about the physical products when it comes down to it. Even with the amiibo and the talking flower and the alarmo, just weird things that they've done over the years. So Sony is just saying, yeah, we're good. We know we've lost, because without a real physical Japanese presence, you're not going to get anywhere near the sales that you're hoping to get. So I think they've already conceded before the PlayStation 6 has even started in Japan. They've just said, all right, we're good. Now, there is rumors about a handheld system, so I guess that makes it a little bit more plausible, I think, for people out there. Like, okay, well, if it's a handheld, maybe it makes sense to have all digital. But even as a handheld, like if you look at what Japan liked, they liked the PSP. The PSP had physical media. Even the PS Vita, despite it not doing that great, it still had physical media. So I do think that this system is going to struggle mightily in Japan because of what they're doing. I don't think it's even going to get off the foot. I think there's going to be the enthusiast Japanese consumers that pick it up, and then they're just going to be like, all right, we're good. We've seen that quite a bit already in Japan. Now, another clear message being sent to Nintendo: we need to be loud and clear about this. This whole situation with Sony and removing physical games, it's not just about getting physical games back for PlayStation, but it's about showing the industry that physical is still needed, and showing Nintendo as they're pretty much the only company left that does play off the medium physical. And what I mean by that is that Nintendo is the only company out of the big three, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, that does it to where you can take a game and it can actually play off of that without installing. Now, Nintendo has their key cards, which we're going to talk about in just a bit, but with PlayStation and with Xbox, that game might be on the disc, but you have to install it to the hard drive, and it plays off the hard drive, with the disc just being a verification key that you own that game. The Nintendo Switch 1 and the Nintendo Switch 2 have many games, especially let's just talk about Nintendo Switch 2 just for this example, has many games, a lot of first-party stuff, and even some select third-party games and growing that play off the cart. Now, there might be a download to where there's like a patch or something like that, or new features being added in, but pretty much all of the big first-party games outside of Pokemon Pocopia, those all play off the cart. You don't have to download anything. You don't have to install anything at all. They just play off of there, and you can get right to playing if you want to. So that's the thing that Nintendo does that no other company does. It's a unique thing that we have right now, and everyone's moving towards digital. All the PC handhelds, all the different stuff that's came out, everybody wants to move towards digital. Microsoft wanted to move towards Game Pass. Everybody just getting that, which was all digital. So it's one of those things to where we need to be loud and clear about this topic, because if Nintendo sees so many people raging against what's going on and saying we can't have that and no way, and the backlash that Sony's facing, if it hits their pocketbooks, if it hits the sales, Nintendo's gonna be like, wait a minute, we can't have that, we cannot have that. And it's going to send a message, and this is the next thing in terms of a clear message being sent to Nintendo and the fans out there, is that this backlash should help cut down with key cards. We want real physical media, not something to where you can just pop the cartridge in and it downloads from the internet. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's better than just being all digital, because at the end of the day, you can still take that game key card, which is multiple uses, by the way. It's not tied to an account, as people are trying to lie and say that on Twitter. It's not tied to a console. It's not tied to anything like that. It's just tied to the actual thing, the actual cartridge, and then you have to just download it and then you can play. But even with that, it should show a lot of these third-party developers that we actually want on-cart physical media. Yes, we know it's much more expensive than the disc, but if you can get it done we will be very appreciative of that, and your game could probably sell better because of that. Especially after this controversy, people are going to be buying more physical media. I've seen it with my own eyes. I went and pre-ordered different things because I'm like, okay, hold up, we really got to send a message here that we want real physical media. We want cartridges. We want something to represent our game. And if we want to lend it, if we want to trade it, if we want to sell it, we can do that. When you do all digital, it's just tied to your account. You have to give someone your account, or you have to give them your login, and it becomes just a mess trying to share games and do things like that. It's just not great. But physical media has always been great. It's always been a tandem, like a tag team. You don't just need one or the other, you have both, and they both play off each other if you know anything about economics. So in my opinion, this backlash should absolutely force or let developers and publishers think really long and hard about what they do with physical games on the Nintendo Switch 2 going forward. And let me give you guys an example of this. The news about the Elder Scrolls Oblivion remaster dropped at the perfect time. They got a perfect wind and storm because it was on the same day that the news about the physical games when it comes to the PlayStation 5 were going away, and games going forward from 2028 are going away, and it dropped right then and there, and they were advertising the physical cart, full on cart for Oblivion Remastered from Bethesda of all people. 2 in a row, Indiana Jones, now this game. So what happens? You go on Amazon and they sold out of the initial shipment, and now you have to wait. So that was a perfect storm. Other developers' games are also getting boosted when it comes to it. Orbitals has gotten a big boost. People are picking up more physical games in general. People are seeing Kirby Air Riders, picking that up. People are just really going out there and supporting the physical games now. There's still millions upon millions of Switch 2 owners and gamers that love physical games. So that's something right now, that's a thing. And that sends a clear message to Nintendo and the fans that we're going to be about it. Not just talking, but actually doing what we say and supporting that, because that's the best for the consumer. Having options of both, not just one, but having options of both. So that's something that we need to absolutely keep up. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is the thought process from people on Twitter and on social media saying that Nintendo wants to go all digital next gen because of keycards. Well, here's the thing. If you've got a bunch of Nintendo fans pretty much protesting this and saying there's no way that we want them to go all digital, even though Nintendo has stated on their official investor reports, on their official Q&A, that they do not want to just go digital. They want to maximize sales in general. They want big digital sales. They want big physical sales. They want to have the presence and the box and the special editions. They want all that. They want the digital sales. You want to go there and have it instant access. They want that. They want you to buy both. That's essentially what they said without actually saying it. They want you to buy both, and you'll make more money that way than being short-sighted and thinking about the upfront costs of physical media. It's honestly a way better strategy. Sony is not thinking all the way through when it comes down to this. They're just not. They're being short-sighted in how they're thinking, maybe because they have a handheld on the way and a home console, and they want to make it a lot easier to be able to share the games from the handheld and the home console and not actually develop a proprietary physical cartridge, because those cartridges would cost way too much. I'm not really sure, but if everyone is against this, the whole thought process of people saying Nintendo wants to go all digital or anything like that will disappear. If we get more people talking, more on-cart physical games are going to come. Less key cards will be a thing. If the sales go up for the games that are full on-cart, Nintendo's games, certain third-party games, that type of thought process is going to slowly disappear as more third-party developers do not want to have the PR nightmare that we see when it comes to the PlayStation 5 right now. And I do think that if the Nintendo Switch 2 continues to sell really well, continues to do really good, more publishers like Square Enix or Capcom, some of the big third-party publishers, are going to say, okay, there's way more people on this system now. They are protesting loud and clear. They want on-cart physical. When we can get it done, if it works with our tech and the streaming and the type of game that we're doing, were going to get it done, because Square Enix has pretty much done nothing when it comes down to it. And there's been opportunities for them to do full on-cart physical with certain games, and they've opted to not do that. Same goes for Capcom. Now, you can't be too hard on them because they've been providing some banger support in some banger games, and they do have key cards, which is once again a half step when it comes down to it, but we would like that full step as the system gets more popular. Take the hit on there. You will make it back up, considering the prestige of Capcom's games, how good they are, how much people are going to be buying them on Nintendo platforms. They've already done pretty good based off of what we've seen so far in the install base of the Nintendo Switch 2. I do think Resident Evil Requiem sold well. That generation pack was always something that people were buying. So I think Capcom take that next step in 2027 and 2028 to actually get some on-cart physical games. So we'll see about that. But I think that, once again, the thought process when it comes to the message and what people are saying, that can disappear if we go out there and support these physical games. So overall, if you look at everything we talked about here, Sony ending the physical games, it just sends a clear message to all of us. It sends a message to Nintendo, the industry, the fans. We got to take this moment. There is a moment to kind of stand up. And even if Sony decides to go through with this, it's not over for Nintendo at this point. It's not. So we keep supporting, we keep going, we keep fighting for, as a consumer, your right to actually own the games and actually be able to trade and sell and do whatever you want with them, instead of having a perpetual license that can be taken away at any moment, which we've seen before with movies from Sony. Heck, we've even seen it sometimes with games and demos. Don't think that it can't happen now when it comes to a lot of these games that they want to control and restrict only to PSN. So I would not want that fate for Nintendo or anybody else. But what do you guys think when it comes to everything we talked about here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this one here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you are someone new. Click that notification bell and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 and RPG content right here on screen. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you for the next one. Peace.